Let me out. Someone help me. The HOA Karen who had just destroyed 6 disabled veterans' hand-carved Christmas gifts was now slamming her fists against my garage door, screaming in raw panic. At 6 a.m., Beverly Hartwick had cut her way in with bolt cutters and smashed the wooden toys these wounded warriors, men who lost limbs defending our freedom, had spent months making for their kids. What? She said my free woodworking program for veterans lowered property values and that wheelchairs were eyesores. For months she'd harassed them. Fake complaints. Cruel comments about prosthetics. Endless threats. She chose the wrong garage. I'm a retired locksmith. The door locks automatically from the outside, built to hold intruders until police arrive. Now she was trapped in the dark with broken toys and sawdust. Every second of her meltdown caught on camera. Karma shut the door and called the sheriff. Drop a like if you'd lock up anyone who ruins Christmas for disabled veterans' kids. Tell me where you're watching from. Let me rewind and explain how we got here. My name's Jake Torino. 3 years ago, I thought moving to Pinewood Estates would bring some peace after my wife Sarah died. She was an Army nurse, the toughest person I ever knew. After the funeral, the silence in our old house felt unbearable. So I bought this place. 2-car detached garage, perfect for the workshop I'd been dreaming about. What I didn't expect was Beverly Hartwick watching me through her kitchen window with binoculars like a suburban CIA agent. I spent 30 years as a master locksmith, fixing what was broken, protecting what mattered. After Sarah passed, I needed something to fill the hours, something that honored her life of helping others heal. That's how the Thursday night workshop started. The garage became a refuge. The smell of fresh-cut pine mixed with machine oil and something better, hope. You could hear hand planes whispering across maple. The solid thud of chisels cutting clean dovetails. And best of all, real laughter from men who hadn't felt it in years. Tommy Rodriguez was the first to show up. Triple amputee from Afghanistan. Lost both legs and his left arm to an IED. Watching him guide a Spokeshave across Walnut with one hand was a miracle in motion. His 6-year-old daughter was getting a handmade dollhouse for Christmas, and the smile on his face could have powered the whole block. 8 regulars total. Marcus Thompson, paralyzed from the waist down, made cutting boards so smooth they felt like silk. Danny Kim, missing his right hand, mastered one-handed joinery that put most craftsmen to shame. These weren't charity cases. These were warriors rebuilding themselves piece by piece. Then came Beverly Hartwick, 47. HOA Vice President. Real estate agent with a smile cold enough to freeze hell. Imagine a live laugh love sign turned human. White BMW. Bless plates. Vanilla perfume thick enough to knock out a moose. She lived 3 houses down, and apparently disabled veterans learning woodworking didn't fit her suburban fantasy. The first complaint came 2 weeks in. Noise violations. Quiet conversation at 7 p.m. somehow shattered her peace. When that failed, she claimed unauthorized commercial activity. When I showed her the grandfather clause protecting my garage, she went lower. Those wheelchairs are eyesores, she said to Tommy's face at a community meeting. This neighborhood has standards. The crunch of gravel under her designer heels sounded like gunfire as she walked away. Tommy stayed polite. He was used to ignorance. But I saw something in him break. The harassment escalated. Anonymous code complaints. Threatening letters. She'd park across the street during sessions, photographing the veterans like suspects. The final straw came at the grocery store. Beverly cornered Marcus, called his prosthetics disturbing, suggested he shop somewhere else. She told a 2-tour Iraq veteran with Purple Hearts that he didn't belong in his own neighborhood. That night I dug into her background. The HOA queen was broke. Real estate license suspended for fraud. 85 grand in unpaid liens. Bankruptcy closing in. My workshop, wheelchairs and all, scared off the luxury buyers she needed. So she decided to erase the problem. What Beverly didn't realize was you don't terrorize people who've already given everything. And you definitely don't mess with a locksmith who's been preparing since complaint number 1. I installed cameras that night. Told her they were for insurance when she asked. Really, I was building a case. 30 years with locks teaches you something. People obsessed with control always escalate. The trap was already set. She just hadn't stepped into it yet. Her first real strike came on a Thursday in October. I was showing Marcus how to sharpen a hand plane when a knock hit the garage door. The sound rang like a funeral bell. Danny Reeves stood there, city code enforcement, clipboard in hand, face tired like a man ordered to do something he hated. Sorry, Jake. Noise complaint. Gotta check it. 8 veterans froze. Tools went quiet. Tommy's half-finished dollhouse sat abandoned while heroes were treated like criminals. The air felt heavy. Then Danny leaned in. Jake, you trained me 15 years ago at Morrison's lock shop. Remember the kid who couldn't tell a deadbolt from a doorknob? I remembered. Worst apprentice I ever had. Turned into a decent man. Same calloused hands. He whispered, same woman's been calling every day. 47 complaints in 3 weeks. Same voice. It hit hard. Beverly wasn't just harassing us. She'd weaponized the city. Danny glanced around. My supervisor's under pressure to find something. Then his voice dropped. Beverly promised my wife a real estate commission if this inspection sticks. She's been pushing me every night to write you up. The simplicity of it was almost impressive. Corrupt the family to destroy disabled veterans therapy. I asked what he needed to see. He checked noise levels. Hand planes quieter than conversation. Verified hours. Permits grandfathered since 1987. Cling. Beverly watched from her window like a gargoyle. You're clear, Jake. Cleaner than a church on Sunday. He handed me his card. Watch yourself. She's not done. After he left, the garage felt different. Tommy rolled over, that same look he wore overseas when mortars started falling. We can meet somewhere else. Not a chance. This is your space. This is where you heal. And nobody takes that from you. She didn't get to take that from me. That night, something from my locksmith training clicked back into place. When someone starts messing with your security, you don't just reinforce it. You counter it. My mentor used to say municipal codes work just like locks. Most people never learn how they function, so they assume they're shut out when the door is really just jammed. I spent 3 hours digging through Pinewood's municipal ordinances. Residential workshops were completely legal, 7 in the morning to 9 at night on weekdays. Noise limits were generous. Hand tools barely showed up on the meter. Beverly's daily calls weren't concern. They were false reports being filed with the city. And here's where it got interesting. My research uncovered Beverly's own violations. That Instagram perfect fence around her pool was 2 feet over the legal height. Her Pinterest-worthy deck had 0 permits on record. The decorative stones lining her driveway were sitting squarely on city easement property. I filed 3 complaints the next morning. Same system, new direction. Her reaction was fast and predictable. Her BMW rolled into my driveway at 6:30 a.m., engine humming like an irritated cat. She sat there for 20 minutes, vanilla perfume drifting through my kitchen window, thick enough to make your eyes water, staring at my house with unsettling focus. When she finally peeled out, the crunch of gravel sounded like something snapping for good. My response stayed calm and exact. By Thursday, Beverly received 3 violation notices. Fence height correction. Deck permits required. Easement encroachment removal. The same bureaucratic pressure she'd used on us, returned with precision. Thursday felt different. Word had spread through the veteran community about what Beverly was doing. 12 guys showed up instead of 8. The garage buzzed with tension and loyalty. Tommy brought his brother-in-law. Marcus invited his neighbor. Danny, Kim's VA counselor, stopped by to document the therapeutic value of woodworking. Beverly's watching turned obsessive. She parked across the street taking photos of disabled veterans like they were criminals instead of men building Christmas gifts. Her camera flash bounced off my windows while wounded warriors found calm through hand tools and honest work. That's when it hit me. Beverly wasn't just attacking my garage. She was attacking the idea that broken things can be fixed. That damaged people deserve refuge. That community matters more than rules written to control it. Her car door slammed one afternoon, echoing across the block like a dare. Through my security feed, I watched her pace her living room, phone glued to her ear, hands flying as she unloaded on whoever drew the short straw. Marcus noticed it too. He ran his fingers along a cutting board he'd spent weeks perfecting and shook his head. She's planning something bigger, he said. This isn't done. He was right. Beverly had just picked a fight with people who'd already survived real war. And she made one fatal error. She turned a personal obsession into a shared cause. Communities don't fracture easily. Her desperation peaked on a cold Saturday morning in November. I could tell she'd been planning. Fewer random drive-bys. More deliberate watching. She was studying us like a general mapping an invasion, except her target was veterans making toys. The setup almost felt unfair. Friday night, I staged a loud conversation with Martha Lane by the mailboxes, clear enough for binoculars to catch. I said I was visiting my daughter in Phoenix. House empty until Monday. The cloud of vanilla perfume hovering behind Ms. Rodriguez's hedge told me she took the bait without hesitation. What Beverly didn't know was that I'd be watching from my bedroom window, patient and ready. Saturday, 5:47 a.m. My system chirped its first alert. Her BMW drifted down the street with headlights off, subtle as a marching band. She parked 2 blocks away, avoiding the obvious cameras, unaware I'd mapped every approach. She crept through my backyard dressed in black like a discount ninja. The crunch of frozen leaves under her designer boots announced her presence loud and clear. Fashion apparently beat common sense. After 20 minutes of fumbling with the lock, she gave up. Out came bolt cutters from her oversized purse, the same one she probably carried into church. Metal snapped in the quiet morning. Dogs erupted all around the block. Any sane person would have run. Beverly walked into my garage like it belonged to her. The lock engaged the second she crossed the threshold. I'd spent months refining it. From the outside, the door looked normal. Inside, steel sealed steel with finality. No force from within could open it. The silent alarm tagged my location and Otto called the sheriff with a recorded report of a break-in. Her confidence evaporated in seconds. Confusion turned to rage as she shook the handle, slammed her shoulder into the door, furious at a problem money couldn't fix. Then her phone battery began to die. 23%. 15. I watched her expression slide from irritation to panic. She'd burned the battery all morning taking photos, navigating, texting. Now she was trapped with a dying screen and no exit. She shouted into the empty space, claiming authority, claiming inspections. The phone went dead just after 6. She lunged for my emergency landline. I disconnected it the night before. The garage filled with the smell of sweat and sawdust. She pounded the door with manicured fists, nails scraping steel, realizing too late the bars weren't decorative. While panicking, she finally noticed what surrounded her. Tommy's half-finished dollhouse. Marcus's polished jewelry box. Danny's wooden train cars lined up with care. She'd broken into a place meant to heal, and now that proof stood all around her. I called the sheriff at 6:04. Gave my address. Explained the break-in. Everything recorded. Suspect contained. Deputy Rodriguez arrived 8 minutes later. I was on the porch with coffee, the master key, and footage ready on my tablet. Beverly's screams echoed from inside the garage, raw and frantic. It was the sound of consequences meeting someone who'd never faced them. The hunter was done hunting. The trap had closed. And Beverly Hartwick was about to learn that breaking into a locksmith's garage is never a fair fight. Technically doable, but strategically disastrous. Deputy Rodriguez rolled into my driveway at exactly 6:12 a.m., 8 minutes after my call. Clean response time. No sirens. Exactly what I asked for. The gravel crunched under his patrol tires while Beverly's muffled screaming echoed from inside the garage, blending into a sound I'd waited months to hear. Mr. Torino? Rodriguez stepped out, one hand resting near his radio. Mid-40s. Solid build. Calm in the way only someone who's seen every kind of suburban nonsense can be. The smell of fresh coffee mixed with the sharp November air. That's me. I met him on the porch, coffee mug in one hand, tablet in the other, security footage queued up. Suspect's been trapped inside for 25 minutes. No weapons. Just bolt cutters and what looks like a starter kit for bad decisions. Beverly's voice bounced off the garage walls like a trapped banshee. Help. Someone help me. I'm being held prisoner. Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. She's louder than a car alarm. And twice as irritating. I've got the whole break-in on video if you want the highlight reel. I showed him the footage. Beverly walking up with bolt cutters, slicing through my locks, stepping into my garage like consequences were a myth. The timestamp made it airtight. Rodriguez nodded. Easiest arrest of his month. Let's open it up and hear today's version of the story. The garage key felt warm as I slid it into the override. The electromagnetic lock released with a clean click. Beverly went quiet, either rehearsing a lie or spiraling completely. The door lifted. She stumbled out like someone leaving a bar after last call. Mascara smeared down her face like finger paint. Her Live Laugh Love hoodie torn at the shoulder. Designer yoga pants coated in concrete dust. The perfect suburban mom mask was gone, replaced by something that belonged in a mugshot. She spotted Rodriguez and flipped into victim mode instantly. Officer, thank God. This man kidnapped me. False imprisonment. Arrest him now. Rodriguez looked at the bolt cutters still clutched in her manicured hands. Then at my cut locks. Then back at her. Years around cops teaches you one thing. They're excellent at spotting obvious lies. Ma'am, put the tools down and step away from the garage you broke into. Those are evidence, she snapped. He trapped me by cutting his own locks. Her brain short-circuited mid-sentence. I was conducting an official HOA inspection. No HOA in this country has the right to cut locks and enter private property, Rodriguez said evenly. That's breaking and entering. That's when the neighbors arrived. Martha Lane jogged up first, phone already recording like this was a documentary. The Hendersons drifted over next door. Mrs. Patterson appeared with her poodle, who immediately went ballistic at Beverly. Then the real twist. A Channel 7 News van pulled up. Martha had called them while Beverly was locked inside, and they showed up right on time. The cameraman rolled. Reporter Lisa Kim adjusted her mic. Beverly saw Tommy wheeling up the driveway and panicked. See? Illegal commercial activity. Unauthorized gatherings. Zoning violations. Tommy looked at her the same way he'd looked at explosions overseas. Ma'am, I'm a disabled veteran building toys for my daughter. What part of healing is illegal? The crowd murmured. Beverly's support evaporated. Rodriguez pulled out his cuffs with tired precision. Beverly Hartwick, you're under arrest for breaking and entering, criminal trespass, and possession of burglary tools. This is discrimination. Harassment. Police brutality. You have the right to remain silent, Rodriguez said. I strongly recommend it. He read Miranda while Beverly unraveled for the cameras. I'm HOA vice president. I protect property values. Those wheelchairs are eyesores. The gasp from the crowd was physical. Beverly had just exposed herself on live television while cuffed. Tommy spoke quietly. She just insulted my legs while being arrested for breaking into my therapy space. The patrol car door slammed shut, sounding like a gavel hitting justice. Beverly cried in the back seat, not from regret, but from realizing her life just collapsed on camera. Reporter Kim turned to me. Mr. Torino, tell us about this workshop. Every Thursday heroes heal here. That's it. While Beverly waited in county lockup, I did what any locksmith does when someone tries to breach security. I breached theirs. Martha's living room smelled like coffee and curiosity as her kitchen table turned into a financial crime lab. You need to see this, she said, fingers flying across her laptop. Her paralegal instincts were lethal. Beverly's paper trail was worse than it looked. First hit. $85,000 in unpaid liens. Taxes. Contractors. HOA fees she dodged while lecturing everyone else. Then another. Her real estate license was suspended 8 months ago. Failure to disclose defects. She'd been selling houses on borrowed time. The timeline snapped into place. Her harassment started the moment her income died. This wasn't power. It was panic. Martha pulled HOA bank records. Emergency fund should be 45 grand. Balance is 13. 32,000 vanished. Every withdrawal approved by Beverly. Fake documents. Fake reasons. My mentor once told me thieves always leave fingerprints. Beverly left them everywhere. Emergency repairs that never happened. Legal reserves that didn't exist. The truth froze solid. She needed luxury buyers. My workshop scared them off. This was survival, not standards. Martha leaned back. Her husband doesn't know. He signs papers she prepares. She intercepts the mail. The man works at the bank handling our HOA account. When he finds out, everything ends. And that wasn't even the end. Martha pulled one last file. Beverly had forged board meeting minutes to cover it all. I went to 3 of those so-called meetings. There was never a single vote on emergency spending. This woman had been running a one-woman crime spree dressed up as HOA work. My phone buzzed with a message from Tommy. Saw the arrest on Channel 7. You good? I wrote back. Better than good. Just found out our garage burglar is also skimming money. Her problems are about to multiply fast. Martha smiled like someone who just cracked a vault. Jake, Beverly didn't just target veterans. She took money from every homeowner in Pinewood Estates. We're looking at federal charges, class action lawsuits, and prison time that makes a night in county jail feel like a vacation. The irony was almost elegant. Beverly broke into my garage to erase proof of my supposed crimes. Instead, she handed me the evidence trail that exposed her real operation. Sometimes justice doesn't wait for permission. It breaks in and makes itself comfortable. By Monday morning, footage of Beverly's arrest spread faster than gossip at a playground. One call to Channel 7 turned a small HOA mess into a national story about disabled veterans versus suburban power trips. The clip of Beverly shouting, "Those wheelchairs are eyesores," while in cuffs had been shared 89,000 times and climbing. My phone turned into a non-stop vibration of reporters, veterans groups, and neighbors I'd never met. The Today Show wanted to sit down. CNN called twice. Even my daughter in Phoenix texted me. "Dad, you're all over TikTok. Apparently you're a folk hero now." Somehow I'd become the face of standing up to HOA bullies. Tommy showed up Thursday with a group that would have sent Beverly straight into cardiac arrest. 5 more veterans, family members, and neighbors who'd never set foot in my garage before. The smell of fresh coffee blended with machine oil and purpose. Word traveled fast through the VA, Tommy said as he rolled up my driveway with his crew. Guys heard about the toy builds and wanted in. Hope you've got room for an army. The garage hummed with more life than any trade show. Planes slid across maple. Laughter bounced off concrete. Exactly the sounds Beverly tried to shut down. Watching injured veterans teach kids how to use chisels felt like watching wounds close in real time. Mr. Torino. Lisa Kim from Channel 7 stepped forward with her cameraman. Ready for the follow-up that would sink Beverly even deeper. Mind if we show how this workshop actually runs? What followed was 3 hours of footage that turned a local scandal into a national feel-good story. Tommy built a dollhouse while explaining how Beverly mocked his prosthetics. Marcus demonstrated cutting boards while describing her grocery store harassment. It was impossible not to root for them. Then came the moment that blew everything wide open. Martha walked in carrying a briefcase and the look of someone who'd found the final piece. We need to talk about more than harassment. We need to talk federal crimes. She laid out Beverly's financial records across my workbench like evidence at a homicide trial. Beverly didn't just steal $32,000 from the HOA. She's been running a multi-state real estate fraud scheme. The reporter's eyes lit up instantly. I'd learned one thing dealing with insurance investigators. When local crimes cross state lines, things escalate fast. Mail fraud. Wire fraud. Federal jurisdiction. Beverly sold defective homes in 3 states without disclosing known issues. Martha kept going, fully locked in. She's facing charges with 10-year minimums. The garage break-in just became background noise. The response was brutal and immediate. 67 residents packed her bail hearing demanding the maximum. When the judge learned she tried to liquidate assets and flee to Nevada, her bail was revoked. Beverly went back to county lockup with no buyout option. The neighborhood shifted overnight. Fundraisers pulled in $31,000 in 10 days. Businesses competed to donate supplies. The VFW stepped in with legal help. Even Beverly's old brokerage publicly cut ties and donated $10,000 to veteran programs. But the real change happened every Thursday in my garage. Attendance grew from 8 veterans to over 30+ families and volunteers. Kids laughed over the sound of power tools. Grandfathers taught skills. Wives shared coffee while husbands found peace in honest work. Beverly tried to erase what she called an eyesore. Instead, she built the strongest community Pinewood Estates had ever seen. One based on service, not control. The scent of sawdust mixed with something better. Belonging. Veterans found brotherhood again. Neighbors became friends. Kids worked beside real heroes. Property values jumped 12% in 2 months. Turns out communities that support veterans attract people who care about integrity. Beverly's worst fear became her legacy. The woman who tried to tear us apart made us stronger. Sometimes communities come together because someone shows them exactly what they're up against. Beverly's release after 3 days looked like someone crawling out of a disaster zone. Her parents drained their retirement to post the new $25,000 bail. The person who emerged barely resembled the polished tyrant we remembered. Hair greasy. Designer clothes replaced by jail sweats soaked in disinfectant and regret. But the real change was in her eyes. Calculation replaced by panic. An ankle monitor blinked around her leg like a digital conscience, limiting her world to court dates and supervised errands. No contact with HOA members or workshop volunteers. Justice now came with GPS and reminders. Her first move was hiring Thomas Kellerman, an $800 an hour defense lawyer known for reframing rich people's crimes as confusion. Her parents were paying for his lifestyle with money meant for cruises and college funds. My client was entrapped, Kellerman told Channel 7, as if defending a hero instead of a woman who broke into a veteran's garage. I almost sprayed coffee across my kitchen. The defense claimed I somehow tricked her into committing burglary. Like blaming a bank for being too easy to rob. The real breakdown showed up online. Beverly's Facebook went from quotes and listings to wild posts about fake disabilities and veteran conspiracies. Even her mother started commenting in concern. The next explosion hit Thursday afternoon. I was teaching a new guy hand planes when Marcus' truck tore into Beverly's driveway. On my security feed, I watched him storm inside with bank records and divorce papers. The shouting rattled windows 3 houses down. $85,000. His voice cut through the block. You stole from veterans while maxing cards in my name. Beverly shrieked denial, but Marcus had clearly done the math during her jail stay. Every forged signature was about to finish what justice started. Every buried debt and every shady transaction was about to surface, laid out like evidence in a war crimes hearing. 30 minutes later, Marcus walked out with 2 suitcases, both kids, and the hollow look of a man who had just realized his marriage was actually a long-running financial con. He packed everyone into the truck and sped off, leaving Beverly alone in a house that would soon answer to creditors instead of pride. Something I learned back in my locksmith days is that people under electronic monitoring tend to push limits, like animals testing the edges of a cage. Beverly started immediately. Her ankle monitor lit up with violations from her obsessive drive-bys past my place. Each alert stacked new legal problems onto her already sinking situation, yet she couldn't stop herself. By nightfall, a desperate for sale by owner sign went up in her yard. Not the clean real estate board she once used for clients, but a hand-painted plywood cry for help that practically glowed with panic. Soon after came the smell. Chain smoking poured from her house like a signal flare of collapse. She had hidden that habit for years behind vanilla perfume and breath mints, but stress burned away the disguise. Neighbors started reporting strange midnight scenes. Beverly talking to herself while checking the mail, trimming bushes in pajamas, standing frozen in her driveway, staring at my garage like it had personally destroyed her life. Martha pulled together a neighborhood watch just to document Beverly's unraveling. The woman who once ran HOA meetings with iron control was now the subject of quiet observation and uneasy whispers. Her last grasp for relevance came when she tried to rally remaining board members into a Beverly Defense Fund, claiming her arrest was part of a veteran-led plot to overthrow suburban order. The answer was fast and unanimous. Every board member resigned rather than be associated with her spiral. Beverly became vice president of nothing at all. Lawyer fees consumed what little she had left while creditors hovered patiently. Foreclosure followed. Her BMW disappeared overnight, taken by lenders who couldn't care less about custom plates. Watching her empire fall felt like a slow-motion demolition, except she was setting the charges herself, one felony at a time. The steady beep of her ankle monitor turned into the neighborhood's daily reminder that bullies don't escape consequences, even with batteries strapped to them. Her breakdown went from local gossip to public spectacle when Channel 12 reporter Sarah Martinez started digging. What began as a feel-good clash between veterans and HOA abuse turned into a full investigative exposé. During Thursday's evening news, Martinez revealed that Beverly's crimes stretched far beyond Pinewood Estates. The investigation uncovered a multi-state trail of real estate fraud, embezzlement, and targeted harassment of vulnerable people. The revelations landed one after another. Beverly had run similar operations in Arizona and Nevada, preying on elderly homeowners and disabled residents with fake HOA violations and bogus assessments. Her method was precise. Find valuable properties owned by people she disliked, then pressure them relentlessly until they sold cheap. The real shockwave hit when Martinez exposed Beverly's link to a larger fraud ring involving multiple brokerages and mortgage companies. The FBI had been building the case for a year and a half, and her garage break-in handed them the final proof. A simple security trap had blown open a criminal operation worth more than $2 million. What finally shattered Beverly was learning that Marcus had been quietly helping federal investigators for weeks. His job at First National Bank gave him access to records that mapped her entire network. The man she betrayed had become the witness who would finish her. Beverly's public collapse came in the worst place imaginable, Walmart, during peak hours, surrounded by phones already recording. I didn't see it live, but the footage spread fast. Wearing the same stained sweats she'd lived in since her arrest, Beverly spotted Tommy in the electronics aisle, buying a birthday gift for his daughter. What followed was pure rage mixed with reckless stupidity. She screamed across the store that he was a fraud, loud enough to silence entire aisles. She accused him of faking his disability for money. Tommy, a triple amputee who lost limbs defending his country, sat calmly in his chair holding a Disney movie, while a woman unraveled in front of him. The contrast was brutal. Security moved in, but Beverly wasn't done. She shouted that everyone was faking it, wheelchairs and prosthetics included, insisting she was the real victim. The crowd turned instantly. Shoppers closed ranks around Tommy as someone called the police. Her ankle monitor started chirping violations as she chased him, drifting far outside her approved zone while shouting conspiracies that made flat earth arguments sound reasonable. A security guard told her to calm down, likely wondering how his job turned into crowd control for a public meltdown. She screamed that Tommy destroyed her life and that his workshop ruined everything. The video captured every second. Wild hair, spit flying, eyes burning with the fury of someone who lost everything but still refused responsibility. Tommy sat quietly holding a kid's movie, showing the same composure he'd carried through combat. Police arrived to find Beverly cornered in the toy section, pointing at a disabled veteran trying to buy a gift. The scene couldn't have been worse if staged. The officer informed her she was violating monitoring restrictions and added that she was harassing a protected federal witness. That part hit her hard. Her face drained when she realized Tommy wasn't just someone she bullied. He was central to the case that would put her away. The second arrest video spread even faster than the first. Beverly being let out in cuffs while Tommy finished shopping became a symbol of accountability and quiet dignity. That night she was back in county lockup with bail revoked. The judge ruled she was a danger to the community and a threat to witnesses. Her meltdown had turned her from a neighborhood criminal into a national example of privileged abuse. The woman who tried to destroy veterans ended up representing everything wrong with white-collar exploitation. Justice didn't knock. It arrested her under fluorescent lights in the toy aisle. 6 months later, the federal courthouse looked like a media festival when her trial began. News vans crowded the street while protesters held signs demanding justice for veterans. Inside, the courtroom overflowed. Tommy sat front row with other veterans, wheelchairs and prosthetics forming a silent record of her cruelty. Behind them sat dozens of residents, including Martha with a briefcase full of documents ready to finish the job. Beverly barely resembled her old self. Jail time erased the polished image. Gray hair hung flat, designer clothes replaced by an orange jumpsuit. The HOA tyrant was now a trembling defendant. Prosecutor Janet Walsh addressed the jury with calm certainty. This case, she said, was about terrorizing disabled veterans and stealing from a community. The evidence spoke loudly. Footage showed Beverly cutting locks, recordings captured her insults, and financial records traced stolen funds across state lines. But the moment that ended her came when Tommy took the stand. Asked about his service, he answered simply. 3 tours in Afghanistan. Lost both legs and his left arm to an IED in 2019. Purple Heart. Bronze Star. I was in my garage building a dollhouse for my 6-year-old daughter when Mrs. Hartwick forced her way into our workshop. When the court asked how the harassment affected me, the truth came out plainly. She made me question whether I was allowed to exist in my own neighborhood. I survived war, but I nearly lost hope because of one furious woman who couldn't tolerate seeing broken soldiers put themselves back together. The silence in the courtroom felt heavy. Beverly's defense attorney looked like a man who would rather be defending serial offenders. At least they don't stalk veterans on camera. His entire defense was desperation dressed up in expensive legal phrasing. Thomas Kellerman claimed entrapment, arguing that I somehow tempted his client into committing crimes. He floated a fictional condition he called HOA duty syndrome, suggesting Beverly was compelled to illegally inspect properties. The jury reacted like people being asked to believe the unbelievable. During closing, Kellerman pleaded with the court, insisting his client was only trying to protect property values. Prosecutor Walsh answered calmly and precisely. Property values? Your client stole property. She terrorized veterans. She broke into a garage to destroy Christmas gifts built by disabled soldiers for their children. If that's protection, what exactly is destruction? The moment landed hard when Judge Patricia Morrison addressed Beverly directly before sentencing. Mrs. Hartwick, you have been found guilty of federal embezzlement, racketeering, breaking and entering, and harassment of protected witnesses. But the deeper crime was attacking people who gave up everything so you could live comfortably and safely. Beverly finally spoke, her voice brittle. She said she was only trying to maintain neighborhood standards. She said the wheelchairs and prosthetics made buyers uncomfortable. Judge Morrison didn't hesitate. Those wheelchairs and prosthetics belong to heroes. Your discomfort speaks volumes about you and nothing about them. The sentence rolled through the room like thunder. 18 months in federal prison. 3 years supervised probation. $1.2 million in restitution. A lifetime ban from serving on any HOA board in the country. The courtroom broke into applause as federal marshals led her away. She arrived as a suburban tyrant and left as a lesson in what happens when privilege finally meets consequences. Outside, reporters crowded around Tommy as he sat in his wheelchair with his daughter on his lap, holding the dollhouse he finished during breaks in the trial. A reporter asked if he had a message for communities dealing with HOA bullies. Tommy smiled with the calm confidence of someone who had already survived real war. Bullies rely on silence. Sometimes you build something beautiful to remind them what actually matters. Veterans, neighbors, and supporters celebrated as justice landed with a federal sentence attached. Beverly's reign of suburban fear was finished, ended by her own actions. 18 months later, Pinewood Estates had become the last thing she ever wanted. A real community that cared about people. The Pinewood Patriots Foundation grew from my garage into a county-wide program serving 127 disabled veterans across 3 states. What began as quiet Thursday therapy nights turned into a full operation with satellite workshops, family programs, and a scholarship fund that had already helped 12 veterans' children attend college. The irony couldn't have been better. Her attempt to shut us down created the most successful veteran support program the state had ever seen. My garage stayed the headquarters, but we expanded into the community center, an old church basement, and even Beverly's former home, purchased at foreclosure for next to nothing. The BMW parking spot she once guarded now held a wheelchair-accessible van transporting veterans to workshops. Tommy became our lead instructor, teaching advanced woodworking, while his daughter Sophia, now 8, helped veterans paint toy chests and frames during family nights. The dollhouse sat in a display case as proof that something good can grow from something ugly. The skills I'd shared about documentation, security, and local law became the backbone of something larger. Veterans who knew their rights, understood ordinances, and refused to be pushed around. We built a community that couldn't be bullied because it was educated and united. Marcus, Beverly's ex-husband, remarried and moved nearby, but he still volunteered twice a month teaching basic home repair. His kids loved the shop, surrounded by men who'd survived hell and came back with patience, wisdom, and endless dad jokes. Financial recovery surpassed expectations. Restitution, insurance payouts, and federal compensation restored every dollar and created an endowment that will fund veteran programs for decades. Property values climbed 23% after Beverly's conviction. Turns out families want to live where service and character matter more than appearances. Homes sold within days to buyers drawn by our reputation. 6 months ago, the governor visited in person, naming Pinewood Estates a model community and approving state funding to expand our programs statewide. The smell of sawdust still filled my garage every Thursday, now layered with laughter from 3 generations learning together. Veterans taught teens. Spouses shared coffee while kids played with toys built by steady hands. The healing Beverly tried to erase multiplied beyond anything I imagined. Beverly was released early for good behavior and moved out of state, working retail and living quietly in a studio apartment. The woman who once terrorized disabled veterans faded into anonymity. Her story became a lesson we shared with newcomers about standing up to bullies. Her old house now bears a plaque reading Pinewood Patriots Foundation, visible from the street she once patrolled. The workshop grew beyond woodworking into metal, electronics, automotive repair, and small business training. Veterans found purpose, built companies, and became leaders again. The lesson was simple. Try to destroy something meaningful and you might only clear space for something greater. Last Thursday, a new veteran arrived. A young woman who lost her leg in Iraq and was struggling to adjust. Tommy rolled over and handed her a block plane, the same tool he used when this all began. He asked what her first project would be. She said her son wanted a toy airplane. Perfect, he said, and showed her how to start with the wings. Watching another life begin to heal, I realized Beverly had given us proof we didn't expect. Strong neighborhoods aren't built by exclusion. They're built by people willing to create together. The sound of hand planes cutting wood mixed with real laughter. Some things are always worth defending. Community, healing, hope. And sometimes the best response isn't revenge. It's building something so undeniable that everyone can see what someone tried to destroy. Stories like this show up again and again in HOA conflicts. People like Beverly believe authority equals power. They expect emotion, shouting, and retreat. Jake did none of that. He stayed calm. He documented everything. And when she crossed the line with bolt cutters, the consequences followed. Those veterans never asked for a fight. They just wanted space to heal. Standing up to a bully isn't about noise. Beverly ruined her own life trying to ruin theirs. The workshop is still running. If you've dealt with an HOA board member who thought they were untouchable, share your story. And if this hit home, subscribe. These stories are everywhere. Justice can take time, but it shows up eventually.